Good evening. Welcome to the information session on Azim Premji University's MA in Public Policy program. I'm Vrinda. I'm part of the admissions team. Today we have Dr. Narayana, faculty at the School of Policy and Governance, to talk about the MA in Public Policy and Governance program. So he will be talking about what to expect from the program and the field engagement, career opportunities, etc. And the objective of this session is to help you make informed decision on your academic journey. Please use this platform to get your queries answered. You can post your queries in the chat. So after the session, we will be answering one by one. Over to you, Narayana.
Thanks, Rhonda. Thanks. Good evening, and thanks for joining this session. As Rhonda mentioned, the idea of holding this session is to sort of help you decide what is the right program for you to do your next level of education or your master's program. You might have already read a lot about our programs or programs on public policy and governance offered by many institutions in the country. What I'm going to do is not to take you through again what you already know, but to add to that, or in other words, you may have some questions still left in your mind to decide or regarding your decision to do or not to do a program. So I think at this stage, two questions will be very prominent, or two questions need to be answered for you to take a right decision. The first question is, what is the idea of doing a master's program? Second, if you're doing a master's program, why should you do it in public policy and governance? I would just focus on these two questions. And in the course of answering these two questions, I'll try to cover possibly all that we need to say about the program and the university at this stage. Now, most of you may have just finished your bachelor's, or some of you might have already been working, and you would like to do a master's degree. What is the idea of a master's degree? Why should you do it? As you may know, or I'm sure you know it very well, that there are two kinds of master's programs. One kind, which I would like to call accumulative master's degrees. And these are the degrees, or these are the master's degrees for which your preparation starts right at the start of your +2. So you study a subject after your 10th for the 2 years, which we call pre-degree or +2 level of education. Then you continue your education in the same subject for 3 years or 4 years of your bachelor's degree. And then you choose to do a master's in the same subject, which is called a cumulative master's degree. The kind of master's degrees that we have in our university, which includes public policy and governance, but it excludes our law program and our economics programs, are of non-cumulative kind of master's programs, which means you would not have studied the subject in which you are going to do your master's at any stage of your previous education. You would not have studied public policy for your bachelor's, and there is no chance of your studying it before that. Right? So you are going to enter into a domain which is fresh, which is new, and it doesn't matter what kind of bachelor's degree you have done. Now let us compare these two kinds of master's degrees. A cumulative master's degree in which you continue your education in a particular subject area, and a non-cumulative one of the kind that we are offering, where you would study that subject just for 2 years in your long education career. Now, what is that you are going to get by doing a cumulative master's degree? And what is that you are going to get by doing a kind of master's degree that we have got for you? Now, in the first kind, there are two aspects. One, it adds to your knowledge of the subject. You study the subject up to the bachelor's level, and then it builds on to that knowledge. So you can more or less claim that you have acquired a reasonable level of expertise in that subject, right? And on top of that, so that is about the subject knowledge. Because you have done your master's degree, you would have acquired certain critical abilities of because or by virtue of having studied a subject at the master's level. And these are the abilities that you are going to acquire no matter in which subject you are doing your master's degree. So, in other words, because you are a master's degree holder or a postgraduate degree holder, the level at which you understand a problem, the level at which you understand a subject, the depth that you bring to the table will be different, will be higher or more when compared to somebody who has not had the privilege of having a master's degree, right? So the first one is the subject expertise. Second one is a set of critical abilities which you acquire by virtue of having done your master's degree. In a cumulative master's degree, I think the weightage is the same, so you would have acquired both, right? Whereas in a non-cumulative kind of master's degree, what is foregrounded is your critical ability. You cannot claim that you have any kind of expertise uh, on the subject that you are going to study just for 2 years, right? You are getting introduced to that subject, you make sense of it, and you study a, a great deal about it, but that great deal will not make you an expert in that subject area. It would have initiated you into that subject area, right? But what is important, therefore, is the other part of the master's degree, which is your critical abilities. What is that you are going to get in terms of having done your master's degree, right? Your ability to be critical, your ability to be analytical, your ability to be in depth, your ability to bring in a kind of perspective which someone who has not done that kind of education would not be able to, right? So in a non-cumulative kind of master's degree of the kind that you are going to do in case you choose to do either MA Development, MA Education, or MA Public Policy and Governance with us. This is something to be kept in mind, right? So you are not going to be an expert in the area, but then it will make you a postgraduate nevertheless. And with that kind of critical abilities, you'll be able to do something. What is that something? We'll come to that. Now, there is another way of looking at the master's programs, right? This is more of a subjective view, or the way you look at, or anybody who is going to do a master's degree looks at it, which is to say that you do a master's degree because you have a particular job in mind, and you think that by doing this degree, you will be able to get that job. For example, you want to become a professor or a doctor or a lecturer in political science because you think that it's a good job to be in, and it suits your temperament, it suits your general interest. You want to be in the profession of teaching, right? And you have studied your political science till your bachelor's, and you want to do your degree in master's degree in political science, so that your target is to teach, and nobody would ask whether you are really interested in that subject or not. How passionate you are about that subject becomes secondary, right? Similarly, you may want to write your civil services, and for which you need a scoring uh, subject, and you think that by doing your masters in that subject, which may be public administration, which may be political science, I don't know what are the other scoring subjects, so you do a master's degree because your goal is not that subject, your goal is something else, and this is just a means, right? Even here, you are not passionate about that subject, you are not necessarily interested in that subject beyond the instrumental purpose of passing an examination or so. Now, the kind of master's program that we have are of not that type. You have to join our master's program, be it public policy and governance or any other master's programs that we are offering, only if only you are really, really passionate about the subject, right? So if this subject or discipline or area of inquiry called public policy and governance interest you, you are excited about it, then I think this is the program for you. First, remember that it is not going to make you an expert in the field, but nevertheless, it builds some kind of critical abilities which are going to be valuable in the job market, number one. Second, you have to consider this program only and if only you are very, very passionate about this subject. Now, the question is, why should you be passionate about this subject, right? This, of course, all of us do our education to do a job, right? Mere passion will not, take us anywhere, you may say, or most of us will say, although all of us might not say that. Now, we believe that that is not so. If you are passionate about this subject, this passion will take you to do something which is meaningful and which is worthwhile doing. Right? So, what can you do with this passion, with understanding governance and understanding public policy and governance? So, all of us know that, the system through which we are governed or the way we are governed is not ideal, and there is a lot there to be changed. You can approach it from the perspective of politics. You may approach it from the perspective of administration. You may approach it from the perspective of public management. No matter how do you see this system, uh, everybody would agree that it is not optimum. It is not optimal, right? So there is a lot, a great deal to be changed there, a lot to be bettered for everybody's good, for the larger common good, right? And this program will enable you to contribute to that cause. Now, you might say that, governance or the system that all of us are concerned with, all of us have some problems with, all of us can identify problems with, but when it comes to applying solutions, nobody can do anything except those who are part of it. Bureaucrats can do something, politicians can do something, maybe some other powers which are not so visible can do something. But what can somebody who just holds a master's degree in public policy and governance can do? Right? This is the question that most of you might have in mind. That was a valid position to take maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago. No longer so. Right now or now, and it is going to be increasingly so in the future, right? The governments are run not just by bureaucrats. Governments are run not just by politicians, or governments are not going to be run as it has always been known by this combination of bureaucrats and politicians, right? The governments are changing. The way public institutions in this country are operating has been changing, and more change is in the offing. And one of the features of this change is that the government, every agency of the government, is now taking help from outside the bureaucracy for its day to day operations. Because the complexity of the government's operations or state agencies' operations has been increasing by the day. And for various reasons, the bureaucracy is not geared up to do that. Now, what is the reason for that? Let us not get into that debate. But as a result, the government is hunting for talents outside the bureaucratic realm. And that is where you will have your opportunity to contribute to making a change to the governance of this country, right? Not just the governments. One, the governments have opened up. Second, the governments also work with a set of organizations, which may be private organizations, which may be civil society organizations. And for these organizations, the state agencies which we call government agencies in common parlance, are the primary clients. In other words, the government will take help from individuals from outside the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy, in turn, might also take help of civil society organizations and private organizations to fill the gap or to add to what the to fill the gap or to add to its capacity. Now, these organizations also hire those who have done their masters in policy and governance. It may be just a 2 years degree, but then they hire you for two reasons. One, as I said earlier, the critical competencies that you bring to the table. Second, they hire you because you are, even by doing this masters only for 2 years, are more familiar with the idea of governance, the context in which governance happens, and what it takes to operate in that space more than anyone else or someone who has done some other kind of education can do or can understand. So your ability to operate in that space is perceived to be much better, much higher, much more competent than those uh, who come to that space without this degree. Okay, so this is the emerging situation, which doesn't mean that only public policy and governance graduates are going to be hired for that those kind of positions in that space. Even others might be considered, but increasingly there is a recognition that people who have done policy and governance are better suited for those kind of positions. And we prepare you for that. We prepare you in such a way that you stand in a good stead when it comes to such positions. As I mentioned earlier, this may be a set of government organizations, this may be a set of private organizations, this may be a set of third sector or voluntary or civil society organizations. However, I would like to make one point clear here, which is also a differentiator between our program and the programs of similar kind or in the same subject area that some other institutions may be offering. All of us are doing the same thing, all of us have the same purpose. Nevertheless, we are slightly different in the sense that we are not primarily interested in um, preparing or sending out public policy and governance graduates to work in these big multinational consultancy firms. Okay, we can't stop you from going there in case if that's what you think you want to do, but that's not the idea with which we have configured this program. That is not the idea which resonates with the larger vision of our university. We are interested in you, provided if you are interested in one, this subject. Second, by using this subject, if you are interested in making a difference to the way we are governed, right? Then we are interested. So the social purpose of the university informs the nature of our program and the expectations that we have for you. Okay. So this is broadly about what is the program all about and what is the larger vision and, and purpose behind this program. Now, I may have to say a little bit about what is it to do this program over 2 years, but this is, common knowledge if you have read our brochures and whatever material that we have put out there for you to read in our website, etc. Nevertheless, let me briefly take you through that. Like any other master's program in public policy and governance, we will have a set of core courses. In fact, there are 12 core courses, and then there will be a set of electives. So through these electives and core courses, you will learn in the classroom, right? So through lectures, through debates, through discussions, right? So you understand the subjects, which will help you to know more about policy and governance, Now, what do you mean by policy and governance? The policy and governance together constitute an inquiry into how the state and its agencies operate in this country. These are very complex operations. You understand it more, you understand in depth in order for you to be part of it later, right? So the core courses and electives build your understanding of this subject area, this domain, through what happens in the classroom. Now, added to that uh, are a set of activities or projects or whatever you call them. They are called field engagement. Together, these activities constitute what we call field engagement component of our program that will enable you to learn by doing, learn by applying what you have studied, what you have learned in the classroom. So total there will be 72 credits, of which 11 credits will come to you through this engagement called the field engagement. And this field engagement consists of 2 rounds of internships and 1 year-long field project called Law and Policy Hub, where you will be working on a real world policy and governance project under the supervision of a faculty member. And for your 2 rounds of internship, the first round is a kind of an immersive internship where you go and just feel, make sense of policy and governance organization. And in the second round, you go and you engage with them but to apply something that you learned. So that's where this idea of learning by doing actually materializes. So you will do some kind of specific work in a specific organization, was decided together by you and us, so that you have an opportunity to do something. And what are you going to do? You are going to test something that you learned as part of the program and see whether what you learned and what is expected of you in the organization match, right? So that's what we call learning by doing. So this is 11 credits together. So in all, there will be 72 credits, of which 2 credits will come from some open courses, which are entirely out of your public policy and governance domain, which are common to all our PG programs except economics and law, where you study about birds, about cinema, about theater, etc., just 4 credits. So together, core courses, electives, field engagement, and open courses, 72 credits, and it's a combination, it's a mix uh, of courses and activities aimed at, to repeat what I said in the beginning, aimed at building some kind of competency in you, which will make you valuable in the job market. One. Second, it will also, quench your curiosity about public policy. What is it to know the gigantic Indian state and its operations, its complexities, its context, its politics? So once again, let me underline 2 points. You have to, this is the program for you if you are interested in this subject, and this is the program for you if you are interested in making a difference in the governance of this country. I'll stop here, and uh, if there are any questions, I can take in the remaining time that we have for this session this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Narayana. We will play a small video about the MPG program right now, and after that, one by one, we'll take the questions.
we often get asked, what is this thing called public policy, and what do we teach you when you come to a program like this, right? When we study public policy, we are basically studying governments in action. Governments primarily exist because they're out there to solve public problems. So the idea of this program is to help you understand, or rather equip you with the knowledge and the skills for solving public problems.
For us, governance is developing a deeper understanding of legal, constitutional, and political processes and complexities.
As part of the Masters in Public Policy program, many of our students who come have been witness to many things in India which they view as conditions, bad roads, mosquitoes, family members who are ill.
I wanted to understand various aspects of how laws are made in the country, how they're implemented in the country, where are the gaps in education, healthcare.
What we do as part of the program is to help them think about these conditions as problems creatively and empathetically, so that we can arrive at solutions that are more sustainable and equitable.
Our program is a combination of deep reflection and learning hands-on practical skills.
Students learn by doing just as much as they learn in classrooms by listening to lectures. Stimulating debates they have in classroom environments translate onto the field as they gain exposure to their actual workings on the ground. There are two types of efforts: a year-long field practice project under the supervision of faculty members initiates students into understanding the challenges of practice on the ground. They also do 2 rounds of internships with organizations working on law, policy, and governance, which exposes them to challenges of the profession itself.
We believe data is important because it can help to effectively improve the governance challenges that we face today. So we introduce our students to a wide variety of data sets, whether it's demographic data, whether it's production statistics, whether it's banking data, and we also incorporate newer forms of data, such as Google Analytics, all of them in order to answer some of the key questions that we have listed above.
So we start from politics, we start from democracy, we start from understanding the governance structures in our country. And we also look at economics, we look at social elements, we look at cleavages that divide our society, like religion, caste, gender, class. And with this kind of a background, we then delve into what does it look like to solve a public problem in a country as diverse as India. So that's been sort of my biggest takeaway so far.
I think a question that faces many students when they choose a public policy program is to know exactly what they will do after they graduate. We prepare our students to take action, by which I mean harnessing the right kind of information, visualizing the data in an empathetic way, writing and reading literature that helps them communicate complex ideas into a simpler language that helps and builds the confidence of decision makers to take decisions.
Thank you, Sanjana. We'll take the questions, Narayana, right now. Okay. So the first question is, many universities offer public policy, only public policy. Why APU has added governance?
Okay, that's a good question. So okay, so this will, well, to answer that question would mean I have to take a class, but let me be brief. Right. So, what actually you study when you study public policy, right? As one of my colleagues was saying in that video, it is an inquiry into how the governments go about solving public problems. The focus there is only about there is a problem, how to understand that, okay, how the government makes sense of that, and how best to solve it. What are the various alternative strategies to solve the problem? Which is the best strategy to adopt? Given the democratic complexities in this country, and how do you do that? So if you take public policy, it's all about solving public problems. understanding governments in action. But then that if you take only policy, right, then it will be narrow in the sense of applying your managerial and economics understanding to make sense of the problems and to arrive at the best possible solution to it. But then, you know, the the who is solving the problem, right? It is the state, it is the government. Now, if you don't know about that government, if you don't know about the state, and if you don't know about how this the state or the governments uh, operate, in what kind of context they operate, where do they get their power from, and what are the limitations on using those powers, right? And what are the visible and invisible forces which constrain the application of those power, your understanding will not be complete. So you need to know much more than just a problem solution approach if you have to be really valuable in that space. So that's why our program is a combination of both policy and governance. So it will take you much beyond a very techno-managerial understanding of problem solving in the context of public institutions. It will rather open you up to the complexities of the state, its institutions, and the context in which the state operates. The complexity of understanding power. You need to understand power first before understanding what that power is used for. That power is used to solve public problems, but you understand the nature of that power first before you understand what is it used for. That is an answer.
Okay. So next question is, what is the difference between public policy and development program?
Yeah. Well, so good question again. So now, the difference is subtle, but it's real. What is the difference? The difference is that we prepare our MA development students to work primarily in with the community, right? Or in the organizations which work with the community, with the people directly, right? And in our public policy program, we prepare our students to work in the state institutions or in the institutions for whom the primary client is the state or its agencies. So that is the difference, right? So now please remember here one thing, which is the common sensical understanding of public policy is this policy documents that the governments produce from time to time, a vision document, right? Please don't confuse that with public policy here, right? So this is much more than that. It's a discipline that we are talking about, not this policy documents that the governments produce from time to time. So if it's the only thing, then there is not much to study there. Of course, these documents do matter. They are part of what we study, but then that is not the unit of analysis. The unit of analysis is how public problems are solved, okay, using political power. Now, therefore, so the policy and governance program is aimed at sending graduates to occupy the space of the state and the space of those organizations which work primarily with the state. And development program sends out graduates to work with the communities and the organizations for whom the primary client is the community. So that's the slight difference.
Next question is,
But Brinda, let me add one sentence again. As I mentioned, so you are driven primarily by your interest. So what is that interests you more? Is it this boring institution called the state, or the community out there? So you have to ask this question yourself before getting into the difference in terms of where you are going to land after the program. Yeah.
Thanks, Narayana. So, what are the alumni of APU doing after completing public policy program?
Okay, so they are doing many things like alumni of any program. Some of them are working in the Niti Aayog. Some of them are working with various government ministries and departments. Some of them are working in organization called JPALs, Sambodhis. So now you may know that JPAL is program evaluation organization, and it works with various state governments and the union government in this country, and it's primarily evaluating the programs to inform decision making by the government, right? So the jobs will be primarily three types. One, you may be part of evaluating the government programs, right? Or you may be helping the government in or the government agencies or whoever you are working for in providing some critical input by way of doing some kind of policy research uh, to decide what is the best solution to arrive at a solution for a problem. So that's called policy analysis, right? So that's another kind of opportunity or another kind of specific nature of work that you do. The third one, sometimes it will be as part of implementation. Of course, here in the case of implementation, there may be some overlap between development program and public policy program, where a particular scheme has already been finalized and it's under implementation. So implementation has its own complexities, right? So even at the stage of implementation now, the state doesn't leave it all to the bureaucracy. The state doesn't leave it all to the NGOs, right? So the state hires a lot of advisors and consultants, etc., to be part of that space. So you will be there. So a range of organizations, which are government organizations, private organizations, semi-government organizations, autonomous organizations. Our students are all over. Some of them are doing their own policy consultancies. Some of them have even tried to contest elections. So, so
Okay.
so
So,
let me just add one more sentence there. So by doing this program or any program with us, one, you will be able to get all those jobs which are available to any postgraduate in this country, right? There are certain jobs which are open to any postgraduate. In addition to that, you have the edge in those jobs which are more or less earmarked for specific kinds of graduates like policy graduates, development graduates, graduates in education, etc.
okay. A related question. Will you be able to tell a few? Talk about a few organizations which are coming for placements. Specifically, you want to tell?
Yeah. So all kinds of organizations, I would say. Some of the organizations, for example, Niti Aayog might not come, but Kudumbashi from Kerala would come, right? Some smart city mission will come. Some livelihood missions will come. JPAL will come, and Sambodhi will come. So yeah, some of these organizations have been coming to recruit, and one thing that I would like to say is that uh, most of our students, public policy students, they generally don't go through the placement process. They are happy to find jobs on their own, right? So we build that kind of confidence in them that they don't even look at any support in terms of placement. And that is the idea of this university as well, which is that we are going to give you good education. And if you have good education, jobs will chase you. You don't have to chase jobs.
Yeah. Thank you, Narayana. So the next question is, in what way the PPG program of APU is different from NLU?
So NLU program is also good. So all of us are doing the same thing as I mentioned earlier. But now, what exactly is the difference? I would like you to make your own inferences by looking at their program document and our program document. That's one. Um, Second, as I mentioned earlier, we are driven primarily by a social purpose, right? So we don't showcase placements in big multinational firms, consultancy firms, as as the success of the program. For us, what matters is how much difference our graduates have made to the way this country is governed, in whatever way it is, right? So we rather foreground this ideal or goal, whatever you call it, that is given to us by the larger vision of the university. So we are driven primarily by that, and we do not. Then any institution, whether it is national law school or any other institution, they have their own, vision and goal behind the program. This is our goal, and therefore our program, the way we look at placements, the way we look at our faculty, the way we look at what we teach and what we don't teach, the way we decide the nature of our field engagement. Everything is informed by this. So, that's some the difference, and also this the idea of governance, right? So we lay more emphasis on a policy student understanding democracy in this country, politics in this country, and governance in this country slightly, differently from some of the other institutions. Otherwise, all of us are doing the same thing.
Okay. So, what exactly are the research and academic opportunities after completing the program?
Research and academic opportunities. Okay.
Further
Yeah.
studies opportunities.
Okay. So academic opportunities, if you choose to do your PhD, you can do in public policy. There are many institutions now, both in India and abroad, which offer public policy PhD programs. So if you want to pursue that, you can do. If you want to do another round of public policy masters, you can do that either in some other institution in India or abroad. So if by academic opportunity you mean uh, preparing yourself to a teaching career, so you can do that, right? Second, research opportunities. Well, research is a major component of our program. So we introduce you to the idea and practice of social science research and its application to the policy context. So you learn social science research and then you apply it to policy context, to the context of governance, the context of what governments do, right? And therefore, you if you would like to take up a research career straight away after your masters without doing a PhD, okay, that is possible. But then that would require you to engage with the program in a very calculated way. What do I mean by that? Uh, See, if you want to do quantitative research, let us say, after your masters with us, in that case, it is not enough if you do only threshold level of quantitative courses. We have on offer very advanced level of quantitative courses. You do that, therefore, and if you do that, or you do that set of courses, then by the time you graduate, you will also be ready to take up a career in research, more or less, right? And then you learn on the job. So both are possible.
Okay. So, next question is about how to prepare for the MA in Public Policy and Governance entrance test. You want to take this question, or
I'll say
I
just
can?
one line and then you can add possibly.
Yeah.
So the entrance test is a common entrance test. Okay, so that's common for all our programs. So because you come from diverse backgrounds, all that we want to know are two things. One, are you ready for the kind of programs that we have imagined and we have put together there? Second, whether your passion and our passion match insofar as the subject is concerned and what we seek to achieve this program is concerned. These are the only two things. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll quickly explain about the entrance test and entire selection process. So the step one is the national entrance test. So this is going to be an online test. So the first part is the multiple choice questions. So there will be reading comprehension and general and quantitative reasoning ability, social awareness kind of questions. And there is no negative marking. So the second part is the written component, that is the writing ability part. So you'll be given one question, and one out of three questions you will be required to answer. So once you qualify in the the test, that is the written test, so you will be if you're shortlisted, you will be called for a personal interview, and which is a conversation with the faculty members who are in the panel. Okay, so to know about your interest and what do you want to know to study, etc. And based on that, the final selection list will be made. Okay. Next question is, someone who lacks a quantitative ability skills, how challenging would be this program?
Um, your quantitative mm, disposition, or I don't want to call it ability. All of us have abilities, right? So as long as you are okay with numbers up to the level of 10th standard 10th standard, okay, you are fine. So there is a threshold level of quantitative skills which every public policy graduate is supposed to have, right? Beyond that is your choice. Okay, we offer beyond that, but that's your choice. But that threshold is not something which is difficult for anyone who has passed 10th level in this country. That much I can see. So the straight answer to your question is that if you are not very well versed or very enamored with the numbers, it is still fine to do this program. There are different ways of looking at it. So even if, let us take, I gave the example of quantitative research, right, earlier. Now you don't want to enter the world of policy and governance through numbers alone. Let us say that you want to specialize in qualitative research and want to be part of the world of policy. There are opportunities there. So we train you in doing qualitative research also for policy, and you can look at that. Or you can see, ultimately it is overcoming the fear for numbers and also to tame the quantitative skills. You mix. Nobody can mislead you with the data, right? Sometimes the moment you are presented with the nice tables, graphs, etc., you are enamored, saying that, oh, he knows much more than I know. That might not be the right position to take. You should be able to see through the data. You don't have to do the number crunching by yourself. The machines will do for you now. The software programs will do for you. But what this program will help you is to make sense of the world of numbers. To that extent, you should take it.
Okay. So the next question is related. The video talks about database study. So will we be taught about data computation?
Data computation may be a big word to use. Now, let me put it like this. So, everything in the world that we are in is going to be more and more data driven. So, is policy and governance. Now, what this program will do to you is to equip you with enough knowledge skills and techniques to engage with the emerging data-led or data-based governance. We have certain uh, electives crafted specially for those who want to go deeper in this particular emerging uh, area or sub area in governance. However, it cannot be a course on data per se, in the sense it is not that we are running a computer program here. We are not running uh, very technical kind of a program here. So you will have sufficient number of courses for you to engage with the data insofar as it is required in governance.
Thanks, Narayana. So, how can a political science background help in this program?
Political science background will help you as much as any other background will help you. What is public policy all about? Sometimes I have the habit of saying it is political science plus, right? So, what is this plus? The plus is in political science, you would study how political power is acquired, right? So, what kind of contestation people are engaged in to get that power to rule, right? So by and large, the inquiry stops there. And then you might also study some institutions, how, what are the institutional landscape out there to deal with this power, etc., etc. Now, what public policy does is to ask a simple question: what is this power is used for? It is used finally for solving problems. Now, the focus of public policy is that, right? How this political power, which they acquire by employing all means. These means are your subject matter in political science, and our subject matter is how this power is used or applied to do what they are supposed to do.
Okay. So, is the issue in the country about the policy in itself or its implementation or both?
No, this is something that you hear everywhere saying that the policies are great and the implementation is lacking, etc. So I think we have to go much beyond that. So these are all simplistic statements that we hear all the time. The world is not so simple for us to encounter. So I think we'll have a detailed debate about it when you join the program. Rhonda, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. So, you have covered this to a certain extent, but if you want to add something, Narayana, though this PG program, Policy and Governance, through this Public Policy and Governance program, can we get job in various state government as policy advisor?
Yeah, yeah, you will. But let me also say something. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you will have all the opportunities that are available to any typical postgraduate in this country, right? So, which would also enable you to write the tests and get into the bureaucracy. But then we don't prepare you especially for that. And some people come to us thinking that this will help them prepare for civil services. Our advice is that if your objective is to prepare for civil services, please don't come to us. It will be a waste of time. So, you can join some coaching institutions or study on your own and crack that examination. That is a good thing. We don't have anything about against it. That's your interest. You want to pursue it. But then this program will not help you much. So it is not, that you can join the program and simultaneously prepare for civil services. That doesn't work because the program is very demanding. Um, I would say again, by way of a little bit of repetition, uh, if you are looking for this, looking for joining this program in the middle of your career or in the early stages of your career, please remember that you have to be very clear of where do you want, what do you want to do after this program. And if you are convinced that to reach that goal or to reach there, this can be a good way or good program to be part of, then you have to join, right? Second, if you have done your master's program, sorry, your bachelor's program, but you are at a loss, as you do not know what to do next. You don't want to continue in the same subject in which you have done your bachelor's, but at the same time you don't know what to do. Then ask this question. Okay, you don't know what to do, but then just to take a look at the program document that we have and all the courses that I have lined up for you. And if those subjects or those courses are sounding interest to you, or if you find those courses exciting enough, then join the program and we will help you to figure out the rest.
Okay. So analytics play a very important role in in monitoring the public policies or its success or failure. Is
Yeah.
this taught in PPG program?
Yes, it is taught. Yeah. So we have a series of data related courses, quantitative courses. Yes.
Okay. So there are some question on the date of examination. It is 13th of March. Okay. So the last date to apply for this is the 28th of Feb, and we'll conduct the online test on 13th of March. Okay. So let me check. Is there, we have covered most of the questions. Okay, there is one question. Does this course also look at aspects of public policy like civil rights, press freedom, and new media rights?
Not. Yeah, of course, a public policy program is not unconnected to this. Um, so this will be covered as part of your foundational understanding of the Constitution. So how much of Constitution should you know in order to make sense of policy and governance, right? So as part of understanding the constitutional foundations of public policy, some of these things will come. But do we have an elective on freedom of expression or right to information, etc.? We might not have, right? But then there may be related courses. So some of these aspects, anything to do with democracy, rights, um, and the foundations of economy, society, and democracy. All of them are covered through the core courses and a range of electives. So there is nothing which is not unconnected to a public policy program. To what extent we seek to cover it varies.
Okay, so I'll take one more question. So can I get the information regarding the scholarship for experienced students who had worked in NGOs? Okay, so regarding this, okay, so anyone who has worked for minimum 3 years after graduation can apply for the tuition fee waiver. Okay, so this is available for uh, experienced candidates. So we'll look into the experience certificate, etc. And it is not just for the NGO experience. We take into account the other experience as well in any private sector or any other sector. If you have experience, we'll consider that as well. So there is a tuition fee waiver for work experience students. I think we can close the session now, right? So some of the questions are not answered, I guess, but I think you're free to write to us. We'll get it answered. It's 6 p.m. now. We are closing the session right now. Thank you, Narayana. for coming for the session. And thank you all for participating in the session. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.